The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
All right, here we go. Loaded up as the Vols pick up a big-time commitment. And is Tennessee's offense set up for an elite tailback? Or are they just okay with a couple of very good tailbacks with the way that they run their offense? So we'll get into that. That Michigan scandal just will not go away. And it affects the Vols, as I believe we first reported on yesterday. And Josh Ward will join us each and every Thursday. We look forward to visiting with him. Always fantastic to talk with the one, the only Josh Ward. Caleb, how are you, sir, as we get off and rolling?
I am good. How are you, Dave?
Never better, my man. I'm doing well. Tennessee picks up a commitment. Let's go ahead and begin with that. I'm not saying it's orchestrated after an Alabama loss, but I've been around long enough to know that picking up a commitment the week after a very disappointing loss is a good way to temper fan frustration. So you have Tennessee that does indeed pick up a commitment. We're talking about running back Justin Baker. Read about him more on Caleb Giroux. Recruiting coverage today brought to you by Andy Mason of andymasonrealestate.com. A commitment for the 2025 class, this time coming from an offensive player. Buford High School running back Justin Baker ranks as about the 372 prospect nationally in the 2025 class, the number 35 running back by 247 Sports Composite, number 42 prospect from Georgia. 2 visits to Tennessee last month, so this is hardly a surprise. Giroux's been all over recruiting, so be on offthehooksports.com for the latest. 5'10", 195 pounds, had 20 scholarship offers. Primarily the Vols beat South Carolina, Michigan, and Alabama. So let me hear you on the message board. How excited are you about this pickup? And Caleb, let me begin with you. I think that anytime you can get a good player, I don't know that he's an elite player, but anytime you can get a good player out of the state of Georgia, you have probably helped yourself. And I remind you, he will help you. AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Best prices, best service in the biz. AndyMasonRealEstate.com. He's my realtor. He should be yours. Hit the like and subscribe button. So, Caleb, I think dipping into Georgia, even though it's Buford, not the Atlanta area, is always big for the Vols. Your thoughts, and let's hear about you on the message board. Let's go. What do you think, Caleb?
Yeah, I think it's big. And again, who offers, I've talked about this all the time, who offers matters. So as you just brought up, yes, South Carolina offered, but Michigan and Alabama both offered. And by the way, Michigan is a place, if you're a running back, you want to go to because they give their running back lots of carries. I mean, just look at what they're doing with Blake Corum right now. And Alabama going there speaks for itself. They've produced 2 Heisman winners at running back since Nick Saban's been head coach, in Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry. So just the fact that Tennessee beat out those schools for Justin Baker is a big deal. Now, he's a 4-star on Rivals and a 3-star on 247 Sports Composite and 247 Sports. However, for those who don't know, this is a 2025 recruiting class. Dave, you know this. Recruiting ratings for players that far out are always lower than they're going to end up. Typically, players, you have to show a lot more before you increase your star ratings. I think they re-rate, what is it, like once in the summer and once in December? Isn't it?
Yeah, just sometimes when they feel like it, if one of their websites is one of the strongest in their network too. So where do the Vols stand in 2025? I know they're 11 in the 2024 class, but where do the Vols stand in 2025? What do they got rolling right now?
Yeah, they're number 15 in 2025, but again, they have 3 commitments. I don't really look at rankings 2 years out until after the signing day from the. Really, you can't pay attention to rankings until April before until the April before. So if you're looking at a 2025 class, you shouldn't start paying attention to rankings until April of 2024, if we're being honest.
I agree with that, but who are the other cats in that class that we're talking about?
The other ones are 2 cornerbacks, which, as we know, Tennessee needs a lot of help there. One is Shamar Arnaud, also from Georgia, Josh Dobbs High School, Josh Dobbs hometown, Alpharetta, and actually 2 players from Alpharetta. Dylan Lewis, the other one. Those are both Milton High School cornerbacks out of Alpharetta, Georgia, who have both committed to Tennessee. And then obviously Justin Baker out of Buford. So Alpharetta is the Atlanta area, but it's not in Atlanta, as we know. And so we see where Josh Heupel is targeting right now. He's trying to build depth at cornerback, and he's also trying to make sure he's got a collection of running backs. As we know, Peyton Lewis committed to Tennessee's 2024 class. Dylan Sampson will be on the roster at least through 2024, and I think this team loves to have 3 running backs at any given point.
So Travis says we have 3 elite running backs right now. I think they have 3 very good running backs and possibly 1 elite running back in Dylan Sampson. Those are my thoughts. That's how I would look at this group of running backs right now. I think they're all very good. 1 might be elite. How would you describe the 3 running backs that Tennessee has now?
I would say I'd say 2 are elite and 1 is solid. 2 are elite talent-wise. I think Dylan Sampson is an elite all-purpose back. We just haven't seen much of it this year. But I think he's an elite all-purpose back. And I think Jalen Wright is just an elite running back, period. Jalen Wright's a guy that, look, dare I say, he's a guy that the way he's playing, you could trust to be a Saquon Barkley type in the NFL if he keeps this up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and change what I said. I think they have 2 elite running backs, and you might not see it for Dylan Sampson for a while, but I think as far as the more versatile scat back type, he'll be that. And I sold Jalen Wright a little bit short, so I'll say 2 elite running backs, 1 very good. But when I say elite, I'm talking about the Jamal Lewis's of the world, those type of guys. I'm gonna say Alvin Kamara is even in that group. Not as good as Jamal, but a guy that goes on to the NFL and is a superstar immediately. My question is, if you're a running back, do you look at this offense and you think, well, maybe sort of I want to be a part of this thing, but they throw the ball around the lot quite a bit. Is Tennessee going to be able to go in and grab the number 1 tailback in the nation? That guy's probably going to go to Alabama now that they're back in a ball control type of look. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think you still might have a chance. Also, largely because I think you have a chance to really pad your stats as a running back in Heupel's offense. He runs the ball a lot. We've talked about this. Heupel's ideal format is if he runs the ball twice every 3 times. For every 3 plays, he wants 2 running plays and 1 passing play. You're going to get a lot of carries. The way they spread the field, you're going to have a lot of holes on a vertical attack to pad your stats. And so I actually think this actually helps you going to Tennessee. The only reason you might be held back is if, given how Josh Heupel likes to use 3 running backs at any given moment. But I got to be honest. If they keep building the way they're building, think about this, Dave, in the 90s. Yes, Tennessee got Jamal Lewis, but remember, Steve Spurrier was known to throw it all over the field. But he still went and got Fred Taylor, because it was sold to guys like Fred Taylor and then Ernest Graham. By the way, the year Tennessee beat Florida in the Swamp that forced Spurrier to resign, I'm not so sure Tennessee wins that game if Ernest Graham is playing. He was hurt 2 weeks before. He always had an elite running back, and he always sold the idea, I throw it around all over the field. But look at how much I get my running backs involved and how much they make plays. Josh Heupel can sell the same thing to recruits right now.
Very true. The top tailbacks right now are going to other school. Let's look at the 24 class. I know he's a 25 guy, but Taylor Tatum, number 1, is going to Oklahoma. Jarrett Gibson, who Tennessee was in on out of IMG Academy, is going to Texas. Kedron Young is going to Notre Dame. James Peebles is going to Ohio State. Kevin Riley is going to Miami. So maybe these tailbacks, because of all the offenses I just mentioned, are at least somewhat spread, and really every offense is. Maybe they don't look at that as much, because back in the 90s, if you're Jamal Lewis, you look at, let's say, a Florida, and you say they're not going to run the ball as much. I'm not going to be a featured back. You look at Tennessee and you realize you may have some competition, but you're going to be a feature back, have more tread on your tires, which I know was something Nick Saban sold later in his program. So maybe they can. Maybe they can pick up an elite back. I think the perfect back for this system is now we all know that Jamal Lewis, if you want to take Charlie Garner, if you want to take Chuck Webb, are like a different level in my mind. Okay. So I'm not besmirching them, but as far as a realistic type of get in recent memory, Alvin Kamara, I think that is a guy who can run between the tackles, and they do that, in my opinion, a little bit too much. They should get out a little bit wide, run some sweeps, do some things like that, but they don't. And he would be able to bring that to them. I think Dylan Sampson is kind of a mini-me in that regard. But when I look at tailbacks over the past 20 or so years, Alvin Kamara would be the one. If I could duplicate and put him in this system, that would be the guy that I would go to. You?
Yeah, Alvin Kamara is the dream tailback for this offense. Like the dream tailback. But again,
I love it when you agree with me sometimes, and I can hear a little bit of surprise in your voice.
Well, okay. Alvin Kamara, and Dave, you know this. There's a difference in all-purpose backs. There's an Alvin Kamara and there's a Reggie Bush. No disrespect to Reggie Bush. I think Reggie Bush really maximized what he can do given how small he was. But Reggie Bush could never be a feature tailback in any offense. He could not take the beating that he would need to. I mean, even USC, Lindale White was a feature back. Reggie Bush just got all the yards, remember? During that time.
Definitely.
And yeah, so Alvin Kamara, it has to be more like Alvin Kamara where they can, because Alvin Kamara can take punishment. He takes punishment a lot if you watch him play. And you do have to take punishment as a back in Josh Heupel's system, because it's not like the type of all-purpose back that you catch the ball in the flat and you make plays in open space. No, you're going to get handoffs up the middle and you have to make vertical plays, meaning you're going to get hit a lot by linebackers as a running back in this system. You're going to get tackled a lot. There's not a lot of Emmitt Smith going out of bounds before you get hit, which he did a lot.
He did not do that.
He did. He
absolutely did not. I'm not going to argue that with you. Emmitt Smith's greatest ability, everybody had a special move. That every special tailback had a special move. Emmitt Smith's ability was getting every single inch out of every single run, which meant good body lane. And no, he only went out of bounds when there was no way to pick up additional yards, but that's okay. Robert, I haven't seen you in a while. He says hype sets up past fireworks with the run. Completely agree with that. I think I'm onto something with Kamara, as I think he would be fantastic. Orange Blood saying, I think we run up the middle a lot because we spread the field so much, more open space in the middle. But I like the idea of jet sweeps and quarterback bootlegs and options. And I'm going to add in there, he didn't say this, but a toss sweep every once in a while. No, I get the point of what they're trying to do and spread the field and open up gaps in the middle. I get that, Caleb, and that's what they're going to do most of the time. I will just say, as inventive as I think that Josh Heupel's offense has been in the passing game, they could do a little bit more in terms of the running game, whether it's jet sweeps to D. Williams, which Jimmy Himes continues to bring up each and every Wednesday, or it's a little more toss sweeps, and really what they're doing now with the screen game are extended runs, so you can count that as well. But I think they could be more inventive in the pass in the run. And you're gonna it's very rare you're gonna find me criticize Josh Heupel's offense as an approach, as a philosophy, but I believe they could do more of that.
Yeah, I'm sure they could do some more of that too. But I think that Josh Heupel's offense, most of the runs are very much specifically designed. So it's not turn the player loose and let him do something. It's the runs are designed to let the passing game play freely. That's just how the offense works.
Look at my guy, Travis, mentioning Arian Foster's first move was the goal line fumble. The only player that has called me on the radio and challenged me to a fight was Arian Foster. So I passed because I didn't think that was going to be a good idea for Dave. And then I remember I wrote how he actually didn't fumble that much considering the amount of times he touched the ball. They just seemed to be at key situations. And the headline, which Caleb writes a lot of my headlines because he's better at it. I'm bad at writing headlines. In newspaper biz, you don't write your own headlines. And on the headline up top, Caleb, so it doesn't matter what the rest of it reads like. You know how this is going to look. Said fumbling Foster. And it doesn't matter what else you write. It doesn't matter what else you write, which was actually defending him because percentage-wise, he didn't fumble that often compared to how much he touched the ball. But he remembered fumbling Foster.
Yeah, no, I know that feeling. I used to, when I was a local reporter, I've had plenty of fights with night editors over headlines that made me so mad in the past. So that's a rough one.
All right, here we go. We got this Michigan, South Carolina conspiracy. The theory looks even truer. I believe it was broke by Caleb Calhoun, and we discussed it yesterday. So give me, for those that maybe didn't hear the program yesterday, give me a 15-second background in terms of what the Wolverines were doing to try to win a national championship. Speaking of winning a national championship, you can order the 1998 book, Celebrate 98, The Untold Stories of Tennessee's 1998 National Championship, and I'll get it right to you. Makes great Christmas presents as well, so go ahead and plan ahead because this is the time when it gets tough to get books in, so I can get them to you. We've got Fred White autographed books as well, so we want you to order those. So Michigan's trying to win a national championship like Tennessee did in 1998. And in doing so, they're breaking an incredibly dumb rule that you can't go scout other programs. Although one coach did tell me a good reason why you can't scout other programs, and I'll give you that reason. But first, give me the nutshell of what's going on for those that don't know and why now it looks even truer than it did 24 hours ago.
So this started with the way it's developed. As we know, they were sending scouts to games to scout other teams' signs. We thought it was just in the Big Ten, but it came out 2 days ago that Michigan also scouted non-Big Ten teams, potential college football playoff teams, and that included Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, and Tennessee last year. We also know now, we had details that specifically they were scouting the Tennessee-Kentucky game. What I brought up yesterday was, I don't know if they were scouting those teams for whether or not they'll play them in the playoff. I thought maybe they're scouting those teams to give oppo research to their opponents to get them eliminated from the playoff, not because they're scared of playing those teams, but they wanted to make sure they had a clear path if they happen to stumble and lose a game somewhere. And that's where I got to the idea that Tennessee and Clemson both had mysterious losses to South Carolina at the end of last year when South Carolina was horrid before that. Alabama had an upset.
So did LSU.
Yeah, Alabama had an upset loss to LSU when LSU was not good anytime the rest of the year except that game. And Oregon had 2 upset losses to Washington and Oregon State. Georgia, nobody was going to upset them. They were just that darn good. But so I brought up maybe they were just trying to clear the path. And well, today I have more details on that because Football Scoop, pulling off a Washington Post article that they were scouting SEC foes, a source with direct knowledge indicated to Football Scoop that Michigan may have, quote, attempted to assist the opposition of a potential CFP opponent in an effort to disrupt that team's potential path to the playoff, meaning they might have been giving oppo research to other teams. That's what that means. I also found a story from 2016 that when Shane Beamer was an assistant at Georgia, he was fined $25,000 for accepting information on a leaked game plan in 2014 while at Virginia Tech from a former Wake Forest assistant coach. So Shane Beamer is not new to illegally accepting leaked information about another team. He's at South Carolina. South Carolina was mysteriously good at the end of last year by upsetting 2 teams that Michigan scouted that a source now says Michigan was trying to keep from getting into the playoff to begin with.
So these coaches all know each other. Let me be sure and mention that because it is a fact. And it would not surprise me at all if they shared information. All that Caleb just provided gives me even more reason to believe that Conspiracy Caleb is right on this one. And I think that some information was shared. I would be stunned if it wasn't shared. Now, did it directly affect South Carolina? I don't know. My stance was yesterday that no, that was the Jeremy Banks game. He created just an incredible distraction days before the game. However, I think this team's leadership is so good that the defense wasn't going to tank just because they didn't have Jeremy Banks or they had his back. I believe this team cares more about the team than the individual. So I never believed that the defense purposely tanked, and I still don't believe that. But perhaps that's why they played so poorly, because some of the signals were shared. I think that's a real possibility. Orange Blood brings this up, that if USC got signal info from this and used against us, then Hooker's injury really bleeps me off. Who knows what might have happened. Now, that was a non-contact injury. That could have happened regardless, but you certainly never know. It's kind of like the butterfly effect. You never really know. You step on a blade of grass in the 1800s, and suddenly Donald Trump is the president in the 2010s.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that theory. I believe the butterfly effect theory. I'm sure you do too. I mean, I think if I went back,
actually.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you plot me back in 1850 and I just snapped my finger, it would affect 1,000 different things, 1,000,000 different things over a period of time. That would just be, it would affect the coin toss in a football game 100 years later. So that's where I'm at. That's the flaw in Back to the Future, by the way, and Back to the Future 2, where Biff goes back in time and bets on all the games because he sees the scores. Well, if you went back in time and did that, the scores wouldn't be the same. That's just how that works. But
let me bring up something David said real quick, which makes sense. Hooker wouldn't have been hurt had we not been trying to stay in the game. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Remind me when he was hurt. Is it third quarter?
He was hurt. No, fourth quarter. It was an 18-point game. It was, I believe the score would have been 42-24, I believe. Or maybe it was 49-31.
Okay.
And so I still thought Tennessee had a chance to come back.
I did too. So if you're Tennessee, though, you're blowing people out left and right. South Carolina was absolutely horrendous. They do well against Clemson, which could that have been another team that was scouted?
Oh, no, that was another team that was scouted. That's what I was getting at. Tennessee and Clemson were both scouted, and South Carolina, after being horrible all year, just shockingly eliminates those two teams from the playoffs.
Okay, so Tennessee comes out, and they're able to blow people out, and things are going their way, and Hendon Hooker never gets hurt. I'll butterfly that effect with you right now, and some other people are drinking the Kool-Aid as well. Orange Blood. What we did have the Banks incident. What if both are true? That would explain a lot, because one or the other doesn't explain how lopsided and goofy that game was. I mean, that game came out of left field as much as any other game that I have ever covered. I mean, have you ever watched a Tennessee game that was more unpredictable than that one? That was bizarre.
It was so bizarre. We talked about the game the day before on the Friday show. For the record, just so people know, Tennessee was favored by 21 in that game, and South Carolina won by 25. Do you know how rare it is for a spread to change by 46 points? Given all the information Vegas has? That doesn't happen. And I mean, we agree that the worst line in college football, I mean, the biggest upset in history was USC Stanford. Remember that game in 2007? And USC was a 41-point underdog. Or, I'm sorry, Stanford was a 41-point underdog, and they won. That's the biggest upset ever. So they covered a 41-point spread. This spread, and that's the biggest upset ever, this spread flipped 46 points. That does not happen in football, guys, in Vegas. Vegas is way too informed for that to happen. They know way too much about the games.
Got to get to Josh Ward, Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in Tennessee, revolutionizing the way you earn sports betting rewards. That means no more deposit bonuses that turn into deposit nightmares. On Zen Sports, what you see is what you get with their cash rewards program. You get a lot of cash for a welcome bonus. Earn an unlimited 5% cash back on your betting volume for your first 15 days when you sign up with promo code HOOKED. That's HOOKED. Unlimited 5% cash back. Keep betting, keep earning with up to 3% cash back on your betting volume every month after that. Refer friends to earn a percentage of their betting volume as cash rewards too. Zen Sports bringing the cash back to Tennessee. So if you bet big on sports, you want to be betting on Zen Sports. Zen Sports betting just got better. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Must be 21 and over and in Tennessee to bet. And exactly 2 minutes. We'll visit with Josh Ward, and look at me. No contacts, no glasses. Why? Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, local doctors that will take care of you. 2 minutes, Josh Ward.
Sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co. What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
A college football tradition like no other.
Yes, sirree, boys and girls.
Or a guy that just won't leave.
Wow, that is sad.
The Dave Hooker Show, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, let's welcome Josh Ward into here, as we always like to do. So Josh joins us each and every Thursday. Josh, hope you're doing well. How are you, sir?
Good to see you guys.
Good. We're having a little bit of problem with your audio. Do you think you sound like you're distant or afar?
What about if I turn the mic on? Does that make it better?
That does help. That does help. I had my window open, so maybe I heard you. Maybe
Josh needs some of those Billy Napier details when he gets the show going. Sorry.
That's right. Hey, Josh, what do you think? What do you think about this whole scouting thing with Michigan? Could it have affected Tennessee? It's one of those conspiracy theories. At first, I'm like, and then after a couple of days, I wonder.
Well, my initial reaction was, hey, that's a big compliment. Jim Harbaugh viewed Tennessee as a potential playoff team. Let's go check him out. Not Jim Harbaugh. He's not connected to this at all. But somebody way down in the football program might have thought that. My initial thought to the idea of a conspiracy, they sent stuff to South Carolina so they could be prepared for Tennessee, was no way. I still don't know, obviously, so I have to put at least a maybe on it because I don't know. Nobody knows. None of us know. And my guess is that did not happen. My guess is that Tennessee played so poorly because they didn't have Banks out there. They weren't dialed in. South Carolina took advantage, and then it got away from Tennessee by the end. And they had the injury to Hendon Hooker, and it was just an awful night all around. So my guess is that Tennessee played awful. South Carolina played its best game of the season and took advantage of Tennessee. But do I know? No, I don't know.
I love having Josh on because he talks to a lot of fans. He's in the community. He's out there. He's been named the best Knoxvillian in the history of man. So we want to go ahead and get to today's tough question. And it's brought to you by our friends at Herald Group Security Solutions.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, Josh, do you think the tide has turned on Joe Milton? And I say that after being in the community like you, and I just get a bunch of people who it seems like that they're done with it after 2 losses and probably not playing for a championship. And even though Joe Milton, arguably played his best game considering the opponent versus Alabama, especially in the first half, it just seems like people are frustrated. So has the tide turned on Joe Milton, and can he get it back? Josh's appearance brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler. Looking for affordable game day jewelry? How about the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition? RickTerryJewelry.com. So from the people you talk to, the callers you take, has the tide turned on Joe Milton?
So you're asking, has it turned too negative for him at this point?
Yes,
because he's coming off his best game as Tennessee's quarterback.
I know that's the irony. Yeah. But it still wasn't a great game. And it wasn't. I just get the feeling that people have had enough. I mean, within just the course of a couple of days through Tuesday, I had 5 people come up to me and I'm done. Gaston Moore, for goodness sake. Anybody else?
Yeah, we've gotten some Gaston Moore messages to the show, and I don't know what's going on when that happens. I honestly, it's bizarre to me. I think with Milton, to your question there, yes, a lot of people are done. A lot of people want to see Nico. Some do want to see Gaston Moore, and again, I don't get it. I don't know what's happening with that one. But a lot of people want to see Nico, and I think there are multiple reasons. One, they've given up hope in Joe playing at a super high level, that the Heisman Milton level play is just not going to happen, and that's kind of the expectation for some unknown reason. And then they want to see Nico, this 5-star guy that has all kinds of talent, but he's a guy that Tennessee's coaches have not actually shown any kind of confidence in that he would be ready to go out there and play at a high level. But I don't think it's because of this past week. I think people were I think a lot of people who are done with Milton now were done going into last week. They were done a few weeks ago. Right or wrong, I think that's the case. Now, the funny thing is if I told you, hey, Tennessee's going to be 5-2 at this point before the season began, I don't know anybody that would have said, what? Why? Why would we be 5-2? Tennessee's in the position it was supposed to be in by a lot of people at the start of the season. 9-3 was the most common projection going in, and Tennessee's in a position to get there. We'll see if they do. If Tennessee loses this week at Kentucky, then even more people are going to want to see a change at quarterback. But to this point, if you weren't done last week, I don't know why the Alabama game would change your mind to say we need a quarterback change.
Can I interrupt real quick, Caleb? I know you were going to jump in there. Here's where I think it would change your mind is because your championship hopes are probably out the door. So you start thinking about, hey, how about getting that younger guy? You may have heard of him. I think it's Nico or something. How about getting him involved? So I think it's not Milton's play necessarily on Saturday. I think it's just the fact that your championship dreams are dead. And I would argue this with you. I did not think that Tennessee would have 2 losses at this point in the season. I thought they were considerably better than Alabama. Florida. And I think Cooper May's injury cost them that absence. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's right. But am I not wrong, or am I wrong that 9-3 was the most common projection? The Vegas over/under was 9.5 with the under the favorite. So what the other loss was likely Texas A&M going in. It doesn't really matter which game it was. Tennessee was largely projected to be in this kind of position at the start of the season. I think you're right about the championship part. Like, hey, we're not going to win a championship. By the way, I didn't have anybody saying to me last week, I think we can win the championship. I didn't have one person say, I like our chances for the SEC title the rest of the way. Also, that is just flawed logic. Your goal is to win as many games as possible. If Nico gives them a better chance to win at Kentucky, all right, go with him. I would have no problem with that. But if you're starting Nico in October to get ready for next year, one, I don't think it really works that way. Two, that is how you potentially splinter a program when they watch you play somebody for the future when you have a bunch of seniors who are trying to play well right now.
Josh, I actually want to, we were talking about this and it took me to a place that I kind of want to put to the floor to both you guys, because Is this the flaw of? Is this the curse of the fact that the college football playoff has started, where all of a sudden, for 140 years of college football before then, no one would have said throw the season after 2 losses because you can't win a title. It's title or bust, or throw the season. But now, like I'm with you, and I've seen this on the message boards a lot too. Because of Alabama, a lot of Tennessee fans are saying, "Well, there's no way we can win a title now, so just throw the season and get Nico in." And it's like, is this a new thing where fans don't see any difference between 9 wins and 6 wins? And is that the result of the expanded college football playoff, where everybody just thinks championship or bust now?
Well, it's definitely not everybody, but it's enough people for us to talk about it. That to me is the difference, because you know who's going to see a big difference in 9 wins and 6 or 7 wins? Everybody. You go 7-5, not one person's going to be happy. You go 9-3, a lot of people are going to be happy. You go 9-3 with Nico, well then sure, people would be excited because you have that momentum that can be carried over. It becomes the narrative, just like Joe starting and winning the Orange Bowl created this narrative that, hey, he's all the way fixed. He's going to go compete for a title this year and might have a chance to win the Heisman based off one game, the Orange Bowl. And if Nico were to have some kind of success and the team were to win with him, then that would boost the narrative. It also wouldn't actually mean anything for what they would be able to do next season. But yes, the playoff has affected a lot of the conversation, because if you're going 8-4 or 9-3, it's a yawner to a lot of people when it shouldn't be that way. Tennessee was a potential championship contender. It was not a championship favorite. If Tennessee goes 9-3, it's close to where people thought. Now, if Tennessee does worse, again, if Tennessee loses this week, or if Tennessee loses 2 games in November and finishes 8-4, surely not 7-5, then people will be disappointed. People will be upset by that. Not everybody, but you add multiple losses to the record now, that'll leave a lot of people disappointed with the rest of the season.
I agree with that, but let me ask you why you think the Gaston Moore thing is so absolutely crazy. Because here's what Jimmy Himes talked about. Okay, I know. Let me ask you. Because here's what Jimmy Himes said on the program yesterday. He said that he had been told that Nico was not ready. Here's what I've been told about Nico, that if he had to go out there and play, he would be ready. But that may mean a limited offense, okay? So if he's not ready, I'm just laying this scenario out there. I'm not advocating Gaston Moore, okay? But let me lay this scenario out there. He's not quite ready. Joe Milton struggles. Would you not ever even consider it?
No, that's absurd. You don't take a senior starter on a team that's winning. To this point, they're 5-2, they're ranked. And even if he's struggling in the middle of the game, say, you know what, we're going to bench the senior starter instead of letting him figure things out. Because, by the way, if he's struggling, his other teammates are probably struggling in some way as well. We've just seen it over and over and over again. But say, hey, we're going to pull the senior starter who has done enough to help us get to this point, and we're going to put in a walk-on quarterback who's never played a meaningful snap in an SEC game. No, it's a ridiculous idea.
No, I guess I'm rolling it back to the beginning of the season. I mean, I didn't think that Joe Milton was going to be an efficient quarterback from the get. I guess I was rolling it back to the beginning of the season. I thought there should have been an open. Pardon me?
They should have considered it earlier?
I think they should have considered something besides Joe earlier, for sure.
Like Gaston Moore, the walk-on quarterback who's never played? You think they should have considered putting – I'm not even saying no to doing it. I'm saying no to the idea. Like if a coach broached that in a meeting and said, hey, I know we've got this guy that's uber talented and we've invested in, and his teammates are supporting him. But what if we get the walk-on and we jump over the 5-star super talented freshman and we put the walk-on player? And like maybe he's Stetson Bennett, but nobody's ever told me anything close to Gaston Moore being Stetson Bennett. So do I think, and when would they have done this? I don't, no, they should not have considered Gaston Moore.
No, I just think at the bottom, at the end of the day, there is a glass ceiling with Joe Milton. It was not. I never thought.
Well, I mean, I think that's the case across most of college football. Like, look around the country. This is partly a Hendon problem. Hendon was so special that that's kind of what people hoped Joe could be, and he wasn't going to be that. I thought going in, Joe, with his physical talent, had a lot of potential, but realistically was going to be kind of a middle-of-the-pack quarterback in the SEC. And I think he's middle to bottom. He's better with the running aspect. That's probably what they needed more of from him, because I think him running the football is really effective in this offense. I know he had the knee issue and rib issue earlier, and that probably affected him in some ways. But like I need to hear something about Gaston Moore to say, yeah, you consider that guy on a team that was ranked high with big aspirations, that you're going to pull the plug on a senior who has the backing of his teammates for a walk-on quarterback who I've never heard any reason to believe that he would go out and win big games in the SEC. Because if you bench a senior and you go to a walk-on player and you lose, good luck. Coming back from
I
that.
understand what you're saying, but let me ask you this. Would Gaston Moore did Tennessee still be, would they still have 2 losses? I'm not telling you I believe this. I'm just telling you what comes up in conversation.
With who?
Repeatedly. With people I talk to that recognize me and say, hey, I just want to bring this up. Would Tennessee have the 11th rated best quarterback in the SEC, which Joe Milton is, and would they have 2 losses at this point if they had started Gaston Moore? Not that they should have, but would Gaston Moore have done better, worse, or the same?
Well, I've never really seen him play, so I guess I need that qualifier. That applies to Nico as well, besides snaps that don't matter.
And me as well.
My guess, would the record be the same? I mean, maybe, but would the play be worse? Yeah, for sure. There's the potential for that. This kind of reminds me of the Jarrett Garantano stuff, and those were scholarship backups. But people were like, "Well, we'll play somebody else." And at one point, it's like, "Okay, you want to play Brian Maurer? Play Brian Maurer." And then he went out there and played, and you know what we found out? He was worse than Jarrett Garantano. And then JT Shrout played. It's like, oh well, let's give Shrout a chance. He was well thought of at Elite 11. He has a good arm. It's like, yeah, he does. Put him out there, see how it goes. And it went very poorly. He was worse than Jarrett Garantano. So now we're talking about Joe Milton, who's going to be drafted into the NFL, and the idea of benching him for a walk-on quarterback? No.
And I want
to. You like Joe Milton a lot more than I do. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be drafted in the NFL.
I got to drop this.
He'll be drafted.
I got to drop this in there real quick, too. This is funny we're talking about this because any other era, and if it's not Josh Heupel's offense, if we're talking about a quarterback completing 63% of his passes with 12 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, which is Joe Milton's stat line, I mean, like,
what are we doing? What are we talking about? Gaston Moore? Are you guys serious? Dave,
no, I'm not serious.
Like,
no, I'm not serious. I'm saying
this is crazy. This is the craziest thing I've heard.
I'll tell you exactly what.
Nico,
I'll tell you
exactly. Gaston Moore at the start of the season.
I'll tell you exactly what I'm serious about. I'm not saying they should have played Gaston Moore. I'm saying they should have had an open quarterback competition with Nico. My question is, would they be any worse off had they played Gaston Moore?
They would not be better off. So I will say that with great confidence. Would they be worse off? I think the play would have been worse. Yes. Potentially record-wise, they could be worse for sure. And I say that because I don't think they've won 5 games because of quarterback play. Excuse me. But the thing I worry about is you make this kind of move and the locker room doesn't have confidence in its quarterback. Is the defense playing at the same level that we've seen? Is special teams making those plays? They might have lost the Texas A&M game for sure with Gaston Moore instead of Joe Milton. I say that knowing that he only threw for 100 yards against Texas A&M. But I say that because I don't know the defense is what that does to a locker room when Joe's the guy and they've seen him put in the work. And by the way, at the time, they didn't expect him to have the issues that he's had. If you say, yeah, you know what, let's just go with the walk-on instead. If you bring that up, if they hear that you're thinking about that, that would be a big problem.
No, my point is that he would have done every bit as good. From what I've seen from Joe Milton, he would have done every bit as good. And no, I wouldn't have played him. I would have considered Nico. And maybe Joe Milton still wins that battle. But Gaston Moore could have done every bit as good. And I think you like Joe Milton too much. I think there's a processing issue.
I haven't said anything. What have I said this segment about Joe Milton in a super positive light? I'm talking about the team aspect, the team impact.
Yeah, but I don't buy that because the team aspect, yes, you can lose the team by playing the more talented quarterback. as they did with Eric Ainge over Rick Clausen. So you can lose the team either way. How many of these teammates, they love Joe, but they're like, I can tell you one person within the program told me they were more stunned that Joe Milton played well against Clemson than vice versa, that was the aberration, not what we've seen this year, that they were stunned he played so well against Clemson.
Okay, well, tell me what you've heard about Gaston Moore then.
I haven't heard anything about Gaston Moore.
That's my point. My point.
I'm not suggesting that he would be I'm not suggesting that he should start the season. I'm just telling you that Joe Milton ultimately was given the job. I don't think you should be given a job in football.
Well, given a job, like what exactly does that mean? There was no question that he would be the guy, and there was no reason. Like, you think there should have been a competition in the spring between Joe Milton and Gaston Moore for the job? You think they should have said, "Hey, this is open between Joe"?
No, but I think my point is, I think there should have been a competition between Nico and Joe, and that the play has been so bad that a walk-on could have done every bit as good.
Well, I mean, like that there's nothing to prove one way or the other on that. So would Tennessee's record be worse? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I can say with the utmost confidence that it would have been a horrible idea for them 2 months ago to say, you know what, let's take a look at Gaston Moore. Let's give him some first-team reps. Joe, go stand over there. Gaston's going to take a shot at this in practice. Would have been a terrible idea.
Well, Tennessee being in the same spot is my only point. Yes, they would have lost a lot of people.
I mean,
they would have lost a lot of teammates.
Yeah, they wouldn't be better. They would not be better off. And you know how this place is. Dave, you've been around Knoxville for a long time. You've been around Tennessee football for a long time. If Tennessee went to a walk-on quarterback, let's say they were 5-2, and we didn't see Joe be able to play through the season, people would have been saying, well, could we be better? Like you were just talking about championship hopes at the start of the segment. So people had those hopes. People thought that earlier in the season. So if you went to Gaston Moore, no way.
That I hear more and more, which I don't think illustrates that Gaston Moore is great. I think it illustrates, which was the original question, that the tide is completely turned against Joe, and he would have to have a Jonathan Crompton-like renaissance in the second half of this season to get that back and be remembered fondly as Crompton was. And I don't think that Milton can get it back, which was the other question I was going to ask you, but we got to move on because I think this is Joe Milton's game to shine. I think is make or break for Joe Milton. Why? Because as good as Alabama was against the run, Kentucky is even better. You can read about that on offthehooksports.com. Not a lot, but by 2/100ths of a yard per rush. And Kentucky is going to sell out to stop the run, which Alabama obviously pointed out as the way to handle Tennessee last week. And their pass defense is pretty horrible. So it gets us to 4 downs. 4 downs brought to you by our friends at Herald Group Security Solutions. I'll tell you more. 4 downs now.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, 4 downs brought to you by Herald Group Security Solutions, leadership, experience, specialization, addressing problems through unique mission-specific mitigation techniques, also making your children safer one school at a time. Guys, we hear about school tragedies all the time, and I believe there may have been another one. You need to reach out to your school administrators and push them to reach out to Herald Group Security Solutions for very, very, very well-trained security personnel that oftentimes are in the armed services and will make schools safer. We're working with private schools now, but we're working to get that with public schools as well. So here we go. Cooper Mays, what should people do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right. So I want to ask you both, and I'm just going to field the questions, and you guys can argue it out. I'll give you my input. First down.
Coop here. First down.
Pick one word to describe the Vols' identity on offense. Who wants to go first?
Josh?
Their identity?
Yes. One word to describe it.
Grinding.
Grinding. Okay, I can go with that. What about you,
Physical.
Caleb?
Physical.
Physical? I'll go with physical. Physical's good. I can see physical. I'll still go with unknown, which is to me pretty befuddling at this point in the season. I have a good idea what they do, but I think you're going to see teams play the run even more, and you're going to have an offense that is going to be searching for ways to move the ball in the passing game, and I don't know that they can. Second down, Coop.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Who are the Vols missed most this season? Hooker, Hyatt, or Mays for that short period of time? Because I believe, Josh, that Tennessee wins the Florida game with Mays. But who have they missed the most?
Hendon Hooker. I mean, he was a top 5 Heisman finisher. He was player of the year in the SEC. We spent a lot of this segment talking about the quarterback position. A lot of it changes with or without Cooper, who I respect a ton, if they have Hendon out there.
Okay, what about you, Caleb?
It's Cooper Mays. And the reason it's Cooper Mays, if they have Hendon Hooker and Cooper Mays, they're 6-1 on the year. If they have just Hendon Hooker, they're 6-1 on the year. If they have Cooper Mays the whole season, they're 6-1 on the year. And
I guess it would be equal then, right?
Yeah, it'd be because they would have beaten Florida with either of those, Hooker or Mays. They're losing to Alabama no matter what. I watched that game. Alabama absolutely obliterated Tennessee in the trenches, and Cooper Mays was fully healthy. It wasn't last year when Tennessee beat Alabama in Neyland, where Tennessee won the trenches. No, Tennessee got wrecked in the trenches last Saturday. So they're losing to Alabama no matter who's in there.
Yeah, but I would also say with Hendon, they blow out Texas A&M. With Hendon, they are much better overall on the season. So it's not just the record; it's the play of the team.
And I would also argue with Hendon that doesn't he probably handle some of the miscommunication on offense in Gainesville a little bit better than Joe Milton does. He probably doesn't need Mays as more.
Oh, they beat Florida with Hendon Hooker. No, y'all misheard me on that. They do beat Florida.
Oh no,
but they also beat Florida if Cooper Mays is in the game.
No, I think that's fair. All right, third down.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Can the Vols win 9 games with this passing game that we've seen? Yay or nay?
Yes. Doesn't mean they will, but yes, they can. They're favored to do so.
Okay, Caleb?
Yeah. I mean, they're 5-2 at this point, and so I think they easily can.
They can, but I think the long ball or lack thereof is going to hurt them even more as teams are going to play the run even more as Alabama did in the second half. The Vols have completed 10 passes of 30 yards or longer this season. That's 1.4 per game. They did roughly double that last year per game. All right, fourth down, Coop. It's a possession down.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
Joe Milton will face a Kentucky passing defense is horrible, a Kentucky defense that is good, so they'll try to take that away. So I'm putting the over-under at 274.5 yards passing. Josh, do you take the over or the under?
Well, I'll take the under.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll easily take the under. I don't even think Hendon Hooker averaged 274.5 yards per game.
After everything you've said about Joe this segment, you put the over-under at 274.5?
No, against Kentucky.
Right.
Yeah.
If he can't throw against 275 yards against Kentucky, then they have
no, Dave, what's
horrible.
No, because what's going to happen if Joe Milton throws for over 275 yards, it's actually a problem because what that means is Tennessee got down and was trying to come back.
No, I disagree. I think that Kentucky is going to sell out to stop the run, and I think it's going to be really difficult to run the football, and he's going to have to make plays.
Okay, we'll see.
We can move the number. We can move the number to 250 if you want.
I just think
I'd still probably take the under. But
when you take the under against this Kentucky pass defense, it's 12th in the SEC.
He threw for 100 yards against Texas A&M. Yeah, so I'm gonna side. If I have to choose a side, I'm probably choosing the under.
Where would you put the over under? Both of you, Josh.
I don't know, 224.5, something like that.
Caleb.
Well, let's see. Hendon Hooker threw for 245 yards last year against Kentucky. Only 245. So I would.
Yeah, and they beat him 44-6.
And they beat him 44-6.
Yeah, I don't think they needed. He could have thrown for 500.
But that's the point we're bringing up, Dave, is that if Joe Milton does what he should do against Kentucky with them selling out, Tennessee will have a 21-0 lead through the first quarter, and they're just going to and they're not, and Joe's not going to need to throw for 274 yards or even 250. So
we'll see.
I'll set mine at 215.
Tennessee's averaging 3 yards or less per carry. He's going to have to throw for 250 or more yards for them to win the game. But we'll see. Josh, you're a great man as always, sir.
Yep. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Josh. He's Josh Ward. Listen to him noon to 3 on the Sports Animal at Josh_Ward. He's also on the Sports Source. He's everywhere. He's a superstar, and he completely disagrees with everything I just said in the past 20 minutes.
Gaston Moore.
I'm in.
What a day.
I'm in. All right. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks.
I appreciate that. All right. So on the program today, we're also...
Quick history lesson, Dave. I got to give you this.
Give me a history lesson.
How bad was Peyton Manning the year he won the Super Bowl with Denver? How little of an impact he had? Did we all agree he had, right? Very limited in the playoffs.
Well, in the beginning of the year, he was pretty solid.
No, but in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl, the impact was limited.
Yes.
But have you noticed Denver hasn't made the playoffs since, even though they won the Super Bowl that year? The reason was everybody on that team respected Peyton Manning so much they did not care that he was struggling. They desperately wanted to win a Super Bowl for him before he went out into the sunset. That had a huge impact on how they played.
I disagree with that. I mean, I think he didn't make mistakes. You have Joe Milton. Now, suddenly, he wasn't making mistakes early on. Now he's making mistakes.
Manning threw a bad interception in the Super Bowl, a bad one.
Oh, I know he did. Well, at that point, he could barely hold the football.
Right, but the defense still went out and did everything they could to win the game because they knew he could barely hold it. They wanted him in there over Brock Osweiler, even though Brock Osweiler was more physically gifted.
Are you telling me for 1 second that Von Miller said, I'm going to go out there and play as hard as I can because I want to win Peyton Manning a Super Bowl more than me? I
think some of the players did. I think there is a mental aspect that makes you play a little bit harder when Dave, you've been in situations where teams respect the quarterback and they play harder because they respect the quarterback. I think Denver got to the playoffs with Tim Tebow because they respected Tebow more than Kyle Orton.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome when Ray Lewis said, I'm going to play as hard as I can so Trent Dilfer can win a Super Bowl. That was amazing.
But how good was
that was so incredible to say Trent Dilfer needs a Super Bowl or he's not going to be respected as even an average quarterback. So hell, I got to go out and save his career.
Guarantee you Baltimore doesn't win a Super Bowl if Tony Banks stays the starter of that year. Guarantee you. The Titans win the Super Bowl if Tony Banks stays the starter of that year.
They barely won it with Trent Dilfer. They had the best defense that ever walked the face of the earth other than the 85 Bears.
And they would have still lost had Tony Banks been in the game. I'm just going to say it. They wouldn't have won.
I don't know that that's the case. Trent Dilfer is horrible.
I think sometimes commanding the respect of your teammates can have you subconsciously up your level of play a little bit. Not that you don't want it more or less.
All right. That is true. But you know what else commands the respect of your quarterback? Of your players? Is to beat Florida. If Tennessee, if they had gone the Nico route, tell me I'm wrong. Okay, if they'd have gone the Nico route, and I wouldn't have done this necessarily unless he was way better in practice. And we were told by Jimmy Hobbs he's not ready, and that's fine. But if they go the Nico route and they win football games, you know what those players that love Joe Milton are going to say? They're going to say, I'm going to take down my Joe Milton poster because we might make the college football playoff this year. So I like Nico.
Okay, maybe with Nico, not with Gaston Moore. If the results are the same as they are right now with Gaston Moore, it's totally different.
That whole argument got completely twisted. My point is, would they be any worse? So the whole argument.
I think yes. No, I think they lose to Texas A&M with Gaston Moore, not because of Gaston Moore, but I don't think the rest of the team plays as hard against Texas A&M, stays committed with Gaston Moore. I don't.
And
by
disagree.
the way, the Broncos have not made the playoffs. That historically great defense couldn't get Brock Osweiler to the playoffs the next year.
I completely disagree. I think this team has the type of leadership that if you ran 58-year-old Babe Laufenberg out there, that they would play hard for him.
You say that, but we still all agree until this conspiracy came out, there was consensus that Tennessee's defense quit last year against South Carolina because of Jeremy Banks.
Well, but look at the rest of the games they bounce back from. No team has perfect leadership.
But I think teams subconscious. Do you not think Tennessee's defense subconsciously did not play up to their standard against South Carolina because they were upset about the Jimmy Banks situation? I think that was part of it.
No, I think they were befuddled. I don't think they. No, I don't think that they played poorly on purpose or subconsciously.
It's not playing poorly. It's not. I don't want to play well. It's that there's so many other things going in your head right now that affect your level of play. 2011 Tennessee Kentucky, where they lost 10-7 to Kentucky. We know at that point Tyler Bray and Derrick Rogers did not care about going to a bowl game and all but threw that game to Kentucky.
Let me ask you this, and then I'm going to move on. And let me ask the message board this, because I really would like your input. There are 22 players on the 2 deep, right? On an offense. Okay, guys that are really going to play if somebody goes down. How many of those 21 players that weren't named Joe Milton thought, I'm not sure this dude can get it done from the get? I'm talking about in January. I'm talking about in June. I'm talking about in August. Are you telling me there weren't a handful of players that were at every practice that even if he's a practice player, they saw what happened 2 years ago, they saw what happened in the Clemson game and thought it was an aberration, which I've been told, and came into this season thinking we have a glass ceiling as players because he's only going to be so good. I mean, we're talking about this guy like he's middle of the pack in the SEC. He's 11th in the SEC in passer rating.
Now there's 14 teams, but he's
that's great. He's better than Max Johnson.
He's completing 62.8% of his passes, to be fair. But okay, I think a lot of people felt that way. And you're the one who told me that you think that in many ways, Josh Heupel lost the team at first by starting Joe Milton over Hendon Hooker when everybody on the team wanted Hendon Hooker to start in 2021. I think that part is clear. And I reported that at the time that it was obvious that Josh Heupel picked Joe Milton, didn't even have a fair competition in 2021. And to me, that's still the worst thing Josh Heupel did. And I'm holding it against him to this day because he did not give Hendon Hooker a fair competition. And Hendon Hooker should have started. Even though he had a great college career, he should take that as personal as Michael Jordan takes getting cut from his basketball team. Hendon Hooker should never give Josh Heupel a call again because of that. I'm just going to say that. But I will say that I think that Joe Milton did command the respect back from his teammates afterwards.
Hey, just recently they had a Nico signed helmet that was pretty cool at Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million Sports Treasures. All I ask that you do is go to facebook.com and follow Sports Treasures because they'll send out sports memorabilia updates, and they are super cool. Braves as well. They recently had a big event with Andrew Jones. So Sports Treasures, over 5 million Sports Treasures. Just follow them in Facebook. Follow them on Facebook, sportstreasurestn.com. Also want to remind you, Tennessee Cider Company, the original cider of the Smokies. Use the promo code HAT. That's HAT to receive some free swag with your cider order. Available most anywhere in the United States of America. Support our sponsors. That is why we are here. Some conference realignment news. Should college football conferences even exist anymore? No, and they're not going to for long. Feel fortunate to be a Tennessee fan because I'm going to tell you Tennessee is going to be one of the ones that makes the super conference, and I'm also going to tell you one of the ones in the SEC that aren't going to make the super conference, and not just Vanderbilt. There are others. With Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. 2 minutes off the hook sports. Why Tennessee makes the super conference and some other SEC foes that they're playing this year that you think a lot of are not going to make it. And if they go to 38 or 42 teams, 2 minutes.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at cctis.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
These mountains hold and defend a spirit far better than moonshine. A drink that holds flavor, that becomes necessity. A hard cider made and relished by folk who are as hearty as they are legend. A refreshment that can only be found in one place. With a taste that makes you say, give me 3 bottles of the good stuff. Tennessee Cider Company, where necessity can be found.
Welcome back. He is Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Let's get it up and running. Coop, what should people do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
We certainly appreciate that. Off the Hook Sports is now.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I'm absolutely so sick of this. Tennessee's players wouldn't play hard if Joe Milton wasn't a starter. I'm so sick of that. It just makes me want to throw up. I can tell you that I have been a part of an organization, and I'm sure you have, and I'm sure Josh has, that hired somebody we thought was a total doofus. And it didn't mean that I came in and dogged it every day. I mean, if that's
it's not about
it's not about you go about your business, then you need to go find a place to get another scholarship.
It's not about playing hard or not playing hard. It's about having the focus or not. Sometimes just the smallest thing can affect your focus, and it's hard to get your mind right. Think about golf. When Tiger Woods had his humiliation that happened in 2009, he didn't win another major for 10 years. That was because it was in his head. Just the whole, he couldn't get his brain right.
That's because he was sleeping with every Huddle House hostess in the Southeast.
He was doing that before and winning majors left and right.
Oh my, no, he was up. No, I mean, he went from enjoying the air quotes fruits of his labor to being a sex addict. There is a big difference.
I am saying that things can mess with your head that affect your play on the field. Or the 92 Tennessee team. You don't think they thought they could win the East? They obviously got split because of Fulmer and Majors and the saga that happened in the middle of the season. That's why they lost to Arkansas and South Carolina. I don't think they were trying to lose those games. I just think that they were mentally not where they needed to be when kickoff happened.
Okay. Well, there are a lot of guys on the football team that didn't think that Joe Milton could take them anywhere close to where they were last year. They thought there was a glass ceiling. That's just a fact. And they can talk about how much they liked him and how much they want things to work out. Caleb, I don't know if you buy lottery tickets, but I know you gamble. I want you to win every single time. I do. I want you to win. But if you don't win, is it going to throw my day off? No, it's not. I'm not going to give 2 damn it's. I mean, I would be like, I'm sorry. If you have a problem, I would be more than happy to hook you up with somebody that could address that. But I'm here for you, brother. I'll talk it through. I'll be your, they call it sponsor like in AA? I'll be your GA sponsor and you can call me. But at the end of the day, you lost money, not me.
You're never to tell me that you haven't approached a situation the way you should have because your mind and headspace was not right. Doesn't mean you weren't trying your best to make that situation work, but maybe you mishandled it in some way because your mind was just not where it needed to be in that moment.
No, as a matter of fact, that makes me work harder. Maybe I'm different, but I worked with a doofus. I'm not going to name him. I worked with a doofus, okay, that tried to undermine me, and we worked for the same company. We were supposed to be on the same team. It made me work harder. So maybe I'm different, but I did not go into it like, oh gosh, this guy's, ripping me and eroding the confidence that my sources may have in me. No, I didn't do any of that. It was the exact opposite. And if Josh Heupel went to this team and he's as close to this team as we all want to talk about, and he said, guys, I don't know that Joe Milton is ready. He can't hit the broadside of a barn. Nico's not ready. Here's the plan. A little bit of Gaston Moore to start the season till Nico's ready. Then I don't think that anybody goes in saying, oh, we're up the creek.
So you think team chemistry is totally made up? You don't think team chemistry is a thing at all?
No. But I think they have great team chemistry regardless of one personnel decision.
04 NBA Finals when the Lakers lost to the Pistons. The Lakers were the better team. You know they lost that finals because Shaq and Kobe had some serious beef with each other.
Okay, maybe. But, I mean, that was after the rape investigation. And
then
when
Kobe diming out Shaq.
Yeah, when Kobe said, well, Shaq just pays these girls off. I mean, that's a whole different level. I don't think Joe Milton has said, well, Gaston Moore just pays girls off in sexual issues. That's as different as you. Okay, let's get back on topic. All right. There's going to be a super conference eventually. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. And I don't know that we even need to pretend that it's going to be a factor, because it is. Tennessee is going to make the super conference. And at some point, it's going to be called the CSC, the college, or the CFC, whatever, College Football Super Conference. And that's what's going to happen. So we've got conference realignment news. Army will join the AAC, Oregon State, Washington State, and talks to partner with the Mountain West. We can talk about this all day long, but does it really matter? Because I believe within 5 to 6 years, or at least when the television contracts come up in about 8 years, that you're going to see a super conference split from the rest. Here are the teams, and I'm not going to name them all because I want you to fill them in, that are going to make it out of the SEC. It is going to be teams like Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, Texas, who of course joins next year, Oklahoma. Who am I leaving out, if anybody?
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M. That's a good one.
South Carolina produces enough revenue. They're a revenue producer. They're a revenue producer. The fans will, the money is why they'll get in there. And also Kentucky for basketball.
Well, no, this is going to be a totally different.
It'll just be a football. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a football only.
Okay.
Just like Notre Dame goes in the Big East with basketball, and then they're a football independent.
Now ACC, but yeah.
Or ACC, excuse me. So no, I don't think Kentucky makes it.
I wonder if it's so. I actually think it's going to be a little bit different. And all right, here's my hot take. One, you and I both agree. The existence of conferences is stupid at this point, right? It's so arbitrary. I mean, there's no point for the whole point they existed was in the 1890s, so schools could set their own rules when football was played by different rules everywhere. And then they existed because of travel, to make travel easier and have a certain schedule because you just couldn't play every team in the country. And then they stayed relevant because of TV contracts in the 80s. Well, now, if all the schools agree to form some union to negotiate their own TV contracts as all independents, the whole point of conferences is dumb at this point. Just have all the best schools join a conference, and then you play your 5-4 rivals every year, and then just rotate a bunch of other teams on like a 70-team league.
It's especially dumb because there's no regionalism. There used to be the talk of the Big Ten and the SEC, which is better. Well, people in the Midwest and in that area wanted to say, oh, our football's better. People in the SEC wanted to say, oh, our football's better. But there's no regionalism now. Nobody at Ohio State's going, our football's better because UCLA just got a 5-star defensive tackle.
No one's doing that.
It's different. Like if you had conference pride, a little bit of you had to be okay with your rival doing well. Not that you rooted for them, don't get me wrong, but you're a little bit like, well, that just shows how strong the conference is. I'm not saying root for them, but now there's no regionality to it, so, with the exception of the SEC. And I would argue some that Texas and A&M and Oklahoma and Arkansas aren't really Southeast teams. So maybe that's eroded a little bit. Yeah, hell yeah, Missouri's not. But I would certainly tell you without a question that it's gone in the Big Ten and it's going to be gone in the Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 is going to be all over the place too. So, yeah, I don't think conferences matter at all anymore. I mean, let's be honest. If the Big Ten came to Kentucky, and this was actually proposed by somebody that I know about 20 years ago because of the basketball tie-in. If the Big Ten went to Kentucky and said, hey, here's good news. We're going to double your TV money if you join the Big Ten. Do you not think Kentucky would jump? Because they'd be able. I mean, I think there's a good chance they jump.
I'm taking it a step further. That is going to happen. There will be one conference. It's a dog-eat-dog mentality, and one conference will be left standing as the one super conference, and that super conference is going to be the Big Ten. And I'm telling you right now, if the Big Ten called Tennessee tomorrow, Tennessee should leave and go join the Big Ten. Right now. Listen, hear me out. I've been on this for a while. The SEC is stuck in a bad contract with a dying network. ESPN will cease to exist in 10 years, okay? But they'll still have the SEC tied to them as they're bleeding money everywhere else. It's dying in relevancy as a network, and we're seeing that with the money coming through. And Tennessee is stuck. I mean, the SEC is stuck, giving them the best deal of a lifetime, while the Big Ten is out there making $1 billion a year compared to the SEC's $300 million, and they'll be able to re-up it before the SEC's contract with ESPN is out. You guys can complain and have your SEC pride or Southern pride or whatever all day. I'm dealing with facts and money here, okay? Because that stuff's over. Regional pride is out the window, okay? The Big Ten won. They've already won. And so they're going to consolidate, and that's why you're right about the teams leaving the SEC. But you know who's safe? The bad conference teams in the Big Ten. So Northwestern is safe. Illinois is safe. These really bad programs that don't deserve to have it being a super team, Rutgers is safe. But
Safe from what? They're not going to make a mega conference.
They are, because the mega conference will be the Big Ten, and the Big Ten's not going to kick out anybody that's already in there. The Big Ten won. It's over. It is over. The Big Ten won this matchup over who's going to be the premier conference. They had a smarter business plan than Greg Sankey did. It's just that simple. And so the Big Ten is going to sit there and consolidate and gobble up the SEC teams. And the SEC teams are going to realize, man, the payout, I'm generating way more revenue than I'm getting in from the SEC compared to what the Big Ten schools are doing.
If the Big Ten turns itself into the college super conference, all right, let's call it the CSC. Okay, if they turn themselves into the CSC, they're going to have to boot the Rutgers and the Northwesterns of the world if they want to bring in. I mean, you got to think about, this is above the Big Ten's level. I'm surprised that you think they're going to be able to call the shots on this, because somebody's going to have to call the shots higher up than commissioners of each individual conference. I don't know who that person is. Good Lord, it can't be Mark Emmert, because he's retired and he would take this Titanic into another iceberg, which he did with the NCAA. But it's going to have to be somebody above that. You know what it's going to have to be? It's going to have to be some Warren Buffett type guy, or is it T. Boone Pickens that
Saudi
says
Arabia?
Or Saudi Arabia. I mean, really, that makes this happen and says, I'm picking you and you and you and you and you. And the Big Ten's going to say, all right, I'm going to let you go, and I'm sorry, I can't take you. So like the Titanic, it's going to be women and children first. Actually, it's going to be men first, and the women and children get left behind, because it's going to be the Ohio States, the Michigans. It's going to be the Penn State. I mean, I could name you 40 teams that I think are locks to make a super conference right now. And I guarantee you that Northwestern, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Mississippi State, Rutgers, Iowa State are not going to be in it. So both of the conferences are going to have to relinquish some of their teams to build a super conference, which will happen. As far as the SEC, the ones that I would be most afraid of, if I'm those in particular schools, would be Vanderbilt, would be Missouri, would be Mississippi State. Those would be the three that are on a different tier. After that, I would drop down a tier, and I would be concerned if I'm South Carolina, if I'm Ole Miss. But those top three teams, help me if I'm forgetting one, would be the ones that I would be like, no, you're up the creek. It ain't that.
Well, yeah.
You're playing Division II football now.
Mississippi State's in bigger trouble than Vanderbilt because if the Big Ten does what I'm thinking and goes for the super conference, the Big Ten still takes into account TV markets, and we know about the national TV market with Vanderbilt. Although that doesn't matter if they're adding Tennessee, right? If you add Tennessee, you're getting the national TV market. So
yeah. I mean, so Nashville is number 2 behind Birmingham in college football television viewership, and it ain't because of Vanderbilt.
No, it's not. That's true. So
Travis says Arkansas before Ole Miss. To me, that's a coin flip. I can see it going either way.
It could go either way. Yeah, but no, both of them do bring in certain markets because Ole Miss does bring Memphis and Arkansas brings in Little Rock, which are like smaller size schools. Mississippi State brings in what? Nothing. And
I guess you have to give Ole Miss a little bit of credit because they don't come across nearly as racist as they did just a couple of years ago. Still running out the rebel flag. Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. They've got the Big Orange Crunch. Check it out right here. Go to Hemp House Chat with 2 T's. Hemp House Chat with 2 T's. And we have some picks. It is Caleb Calhoun who is going to make you money. So how are we setting this up? We're going to start off with some picks that Caleb kind of likes, and then Caleb's Casino is going to take us to the picks that he really likes, the picks of the week. So let's run through these. In the initial stages, you've got A&M minus 14.5 over South Carolina. Good Lord, I wouldn't want to cover that game.
I would not. I keep saying, by the way, just to get it out there, I was horrible last week, and I apologize. I was 5-12 overall, 1-2 on my bets of the week. I'm 85-78 on the year, though, and still 12-12 in picks of the week, which is losing money, but I'm gonna get it back this week. Don't worry. So, yeah, I got A&M. I keep saying the bottom's going to fall out of them, but they're coming off a bye. They're so much better than South Carolina, and South Carolina is just a bad team and a poorly coached team, and I think they are a sign-stealing moment away from Shane Beamer having been fired last year.
Georgia 14.5 point favorites over Florida. I'm with you there. You've
Georgia
got the
covers.
under at 40. You got the other 47.5. I think Georgia covers that one. Auburn 6.5 favorites over Mississippi State. The over at 41.5. I love the over. I don't feel this is probably a game I would stay away from, but if I had to pick, I'd go with you at Auburn.
Yeah, the Auburn, I think, covers at home, and over under it. I mean, I think I did some digging, and it should be like right at about like 42.5. So it's barely the over 41.5. And so I'm going with the over, but stay away from the over under. That's a tough bet to make.
Oregon 6.5 point favorites at Utah. The over is 47.5. Don't have
Oregon.
I'll just be honest. We don't have a great feel for this game.
I think Oregon covers. I think the emotional win against USC last week is going to be a little too much on Utah to try to have to come out and play. And I think Oregon's a really, really good football team. So, but this is to see who stays alive in the Pac-12 race.
Right. You got Duke +4 at Louisville, which is interesting to me because could Duke be set up for a letdown game?
No, because I mean, they didn't really. It wasn't like they emotionally invested in Florida State. They got beat pretty good. And so I think Mike Elko in the defense will help this game hit the under. And I think Duke will cover at Louisville. I'm pretty high on Duke as a football program right now.
Ole Miss 24.5 favorites over Vanderbilt. You like Ole Miss, the over at 63. And then Tennessee.
Lane Kiffin's going to air it out at Vanderbilt. He's going to have fun.
He'll definitely try to run up the score. And then Tennessee, 3.5 point favorites at Kentucky. You like Tennessee. You like the over at 51.5. I don't know why. What makes you think that Tennessee can throw the ball?
because last week the over hit at 45, and the over hit by 9 points. And I think Tennessee has a new element to their offense with Joe Milton running with it. And I think that'll open up enough big plays. And so I think Tennessee does hit the over at Kentucky in this one, and they cover the 3.5. I know it's risky, but yeah, I think I'm seeing something like a 35-21 type game, 35-28, something like that.
If this was 4.5, would you still take Tennessee?
Yes, I would.
Okay. I would too. Now the picks of the week, the ones that you're going to make money on: Colorado plus 17 at UCLA. Why?
I think so. Colorado, yes, there was that upset 2 weeks ago, but they've had a bye. And more importantly, given who they got in the transfer portal, Dave, you and I know, and Deanna said this, what's holding him back right now is he doesn't have the quote unquote dogs in the middle, but he's got the skill players on the outside. And that'll allow him to compete with Chip Kelly, who just runs a totally finesse offense. So I think UCLA wins, but I don't think they win by 17. I think Colorado puts up a fight in that one because of Shedeur Sanders.
No, I tend to agree. And I watched Deion Sanders' press conference yesterday, and he was like, I hated the bye. I didn't want the bye. So I guarantee you he was hard on his team with the bye. Oregon at Utah, the over is what you love, 47.5. Why?
This over-under is based on what people project onto Dan Lanning as a defensive coordinator and Kyle Whittingham and the physical toughness he runs at Utah, but it doesn't bear out in how they've played this year. Utah had a shootout with USC last week and won 34-32. Every Oregon game this year has been a shootout against good teams. So there's no reason to think the over-under. This is the worst line of the week, 47.5. Guys, put everything you got on this, on the overhitting. This is the easiest over I'm calling of the week. I don't know what type of bet you want me to do where I humiliate myself next week, but I am certain the over hits in this game.
You have to drink a cup of coffee with mayonnaise in it, Will Levis style.
Oh, God, no, because Will Levis is starting on Sunday, and I don't want to honor him.
That's the bet. You have to drink a full cup of coffee. Cheer me on the message board. Tell me that's the way to go. If Caleb loses this bet, and it's pretty simple, if Louisville beats Duke and Louisville's at home, then Caleb has to drink a cup of coffee with a heaping scoop of mayonnaise in it.
No, not Louisville, Duke. No. The over-under for Oregon, Utah.
Oh, I was talking about the Duke money line at Louisville.
No, that one. No. I'm not betting on that. Like, I'm betting on it, but I'm not betting a cup of coffee with mayonnaise. I can talk. You want to talk Duke money line at Louisville real quick?
Yeah, I thought that's where we were.
No, I was on Oregon, Utah. That's the one I'm all in. Over, under. Take Oregon, Utah over 47.5. If the under hits, you got to parlay this. If the under hits and if Will Levis wins on Sunday.
No, I'm not parlaying. Listen, if you think that Caleb Calhoun is scared, then go ahead and call him out on the message board right now, because I think he's scared. And I think that he feels kind of good about this. I'll give you any one of your best bets. How about that? Any one of your best bets. You've got 3 of them. Colorado plus 17 at UCLA, Oregon at Utah, the over 475.
47.5.
47.5. 475 would be a lot of points. And you got the Duke money line at Louisville. So what's your Mayo bet? What's your Mayo bet?
My Mayo bet is Oregon, Utah, over 47.5. And to break down Duke money line at Louisville, you guys want to get rich? Jimmy can disagree with me. John probably agrees with me. Mike Elko is the smartest coach in college football. He's the best coach in college football. He is light years ahead of the rest of the country as a head coach right now. And Duke is going to upset Louisville because even though Jeff Brom is a good coach, Mike Elko is a great coach, and they're not that far behind talent-wise.
Every school in the country would shoot Mike Elko in the leg to get Kirby Smart. Just saying.
No, I would.
All right.
No, anybody can win at Georgia. Mike Elko, I take Mike Elko over Nick Saban or Kirby Smart. I would.
Yeah, I love visiting with Josh Ward. It'll be a Football Friday with Fred tomorrow, brought to you by our friends at Herald Group Security Solutions, making your children safer in school, one school at a time. HeraldGRP.com. Go to your school administrator. Say, we got to have Herald Group Security Solutions. That's just a fact. And we're looking forward to a Mayo Monday, and that'll be if Oregon and Utah do not score over 47.5. and Utah has a pretty good defense. So I feel like Caleb's getting some special creamer on Monday. Do you even drink coffee, or is this just going to be disgusting from talk to
I absolutely love coffee, and I despise mayonnaise.
I can't.
So
I'm so excited about this.
And
we set up a bet where I didn't even have any retort. I don't even have to do anything stupid. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker with you weekdays at 10 a.m. You got to play that better next time. But I already got you for this one.
I'm not worried because I know I'm going to win. I'm not trying to get you to risk anything. I don't need to. Spencer Riley might witness this. That's what Travis is suggesting. Should I do it when Spencer's on the show?
Yeah, because I'm not Will Dumbass. I'm not going to put mayo in my coffee. Have a fantastic afternoon, morning, day, everyone. We appreciate you live each weekday at 10 a.m. We got Jamal Lewis coming up tonight. He is Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been